My best friend stole my wedding dress. She didn't expect a replacement I chose became a story of loyalty broken and revenge perfectly served. I always thought Emma was more than my best friend. She was like a sister. We grew up sharing secrets, clothes, even boyfriends we both had crushes on in middle school. But as we got older, I started to notice a different side of her. She loved being the center of attention, and when she wasn't, she found ways to pull the spotlight back to herself. Still, I never imagined she'd try to ruin my wedding. For months, I'd been planning every detail of that day. The flowers, the music, the cake, but most of all, the dress. It wasn't just any dress. My mother had passed it down to me. It was timeless, delicate lace, hand-sewn beading, a flowing train that looked like something out of a dream. Every time I tried it on, I felt like she was standing right beside me. Emma had been there for the fittings, of course. She gushed over how stunning I looked, how my fiancé Liam wouldn't be able to take his eyes off me. I believed her. I thought she was happy for me. I didn't realize those words carried more envy than love. The morning of the wedding, I woke up buzzing with nervous excitement. My bridesmaids and I were getting ready in a suite at the hotel. The dress had been steamed, hung carefully in the wardrobe, waiting for me. But when it was finally time to change, it was gone. The hanger was empty. My stomach dropped. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe one of the staff had moved it. Maybe it was in the wrong room. But the more I searched, the colder the air felt around me. Then one of the bridesmaids whispered that Emma had been seen slipping out of the suite earlier, carrying a garment bag. I didn't want to believe it. Not Emma. Not my best friend. But when I got the text, a photo of her standing in my mother's dress, smiling like she was the bride, my knees nearly gave out. And that's when something inside me shifted. Instead of falling apart, I decided to show her that she could never steal what was truly mine. I stared at that photo of Emma in disbelief. Her hand was on her hip, chin tilted just so, as if she were posing for a magazine cover. She had even captioned it, "If you can't shine on your bestie's big day, when can you?" My phone nearly slipped out of my hand. The room erupted in gasps, curses, and angry whispers from my bridesmaids, but I went silent. I couldn't cry. I couldn't scream. I just froze. That dress was supposed to be my connection to my mother. And now Emma had stolen it like it was nothing more than a costume. "What do we do?" one of the girls asked. "We don't have time to get another one. The ceremony starts in 2 hours." That was when I remembered something I hadn't thought about in years. Hidden away in my grandmother's cedar chest at home was another gown. Not a traditional wedding dress, but a silk evening gown my grandmother had worn when she met my grandfather. It was bold champagne-colored, with a low back and subtle sparkle in the fabric. I had tried it on once when I was younger, just for fun, and my mother had laughed and said, "That dress carries a kind of magic. It makes people remember you." Maybe this was the sign I needed. I called my dad, my voice steady though my hands trembled. "Go to Grandma's house. In the cedar chest at the foot of her bed, there's a gown. Bring it, please. And hurry." He didn't ask questions, just said, "On it." While we waited, my bridesmaids kept throwing furious comments about Emma. But I stayed quiet. My anger wasn't loud. It was sharp, icy, sitting heavy in my chest. Because suddenly I knew. Emma thought she had ruined my day. She thought she had taken the spotlight from me. But what she didn't expect was that I had something even better waiting for her. And when I walked down that aisle, everyone would see exactly who the real bride was. The hotel suite was filled with nervous energy, but I felt strangely calm. It was as if my mother's voice whispered from somewhere unseen, "Don't let her win. This is your day." An hour later, my dad rushed in, slightly out of breath, holding the cedar chest gown wrapped in protective paper. The moment I saw it, my eyes welled up. He laid it carefully across the bed, and for the first time that morning, I smiled. The dress shimmered under the soft light. It wasn't white. It wasn't traditional, but it was breathtaking. The silk caught every flicker of light, and the color, a rich champagne, glowed against my skin. My bridesmaids gasped as I slipped it on. It hugged me in all the right places, the neckline elegant yet daring. Paired with the simple veil I still had, I didn't look like the bride Emma had tried to replace. I looked unforgettable. "Emma has no idea what she just set in motion," one of my bridesmaids muttered, zipping me up. I took a deep breath, looked in the mirror, And for the first time that day, I saw power staring back at me. Not a desperate bride clinging to tradition, but a woman ready to reclaim what was hers. Then came the message that almost broke my composure. Emma had posted another photo. This time she was at the venue, spinning in my mother's dress, pretending to adjust the veil she had stolen, captioned, "Sometimes you have to save the day." Save the day. She wasn't just stealing my dress. She was trying to steal my identity, my role, my spotlight. I clenched my fists. "Let her play dress up," I said through my teeth. "When I arrive, she'll regret ever touching that gown." And with that, I picked up my bouquet, squared my shoulders, and headed toward the moment Emma thought she owned, but which had always been mine. The car ride to the venue felt like stepping into a battlefield. My bridesmaids were buzzing with fury, but I sat in silence, watching the city blur past the window. Every mile closer, my determination grew. When we pulled up to the church, the scene outside was surreal. Guests were gathered near the entrance, murmuring, confused. And there, standing at the top of the stairs, was Emma. She was radiant, yes, but it was the kind of radiance that screamed desperation. My mother's dress hung on her body, but didn't belong to her. She didn't wear it with grace. She wore it like a stolen crown. And from the look on her face, she was enjoying every second of the attention. For a moment, a pang of grief hit me. How could someone I trusted with everything betray me like this? But grief quickly hardened into resolve. As the car door opened, the murmurs turned into gasps. I stepped out slowly, bouquet in hand, the champagne silk gown shimmering like liquid light. The late afternoon sun caught every thread of its delicate shimmer, and the crowd fell into silence. Emma froze. Her confident smirk slipped the second her eyes landed on me. She looked me up and down, her lips parting slightly, but no words came. For the first time in years of knowing her, she seemed small. One of my aunts whispered loudly enough for half the guests to hear, "My God, she looks like a movie star." I walked past Emma, never breaking eye contact, and for the first time, I saw panic flicker in her eyes. She had tried to replace me, but I wasn't competing with her anymore. I had already won. Inside, Liam was waiting at the altar. He hadn't seen me yet. But when he did, the entire story would shift in ways Emma could never undo. The heavy church doors swung open, and the music began. My heart pounded in rhythm with the organ, but my steps were steady. All eyes turned toward me, and for a brief moment, I forgot about Emma standing outside. Gasps rippled through the pews as people saw the gown. Some guests whispered, others smiled in awe. The champagne silk shimmered with every step I took down the aisle, the fabric glowing under the golden light from the stained glass windows. And then I saw him. Liam. His jaw slackened, his eyes widening in disbelief. He wasn't just looking at me, he was seeing me. His entire face softened into something between shock and pure adoration. Whatever doubts had been placed in his head by Emma's antics disappeared in that instant. When I reached him, he leaned closer and whispered so only I could hear, "You look incredible. Better than I ever imagined." A warmth spread through me, and for the first time that day, I felt like a bride. But as the priest began the ceremony, I caught sight of movement in the back of the church. Emma. She had followed me inside. Still in my mother's dress, she lingered in the shadows, watching like an intruder at her own show. Her face was pale now, her smile forced, her hands clenched tight around the veil she didn't deserve to wear. The guests noticed her too, their confusion breaking into hushed gossip. I held Liam's hand tighter and kept my head high, because in that moment I realized something important. Emma hadn't stolen my day. She had given me the chance to rise above her completely, and she wasn't prepared for what was coming next. The whispers spread like wildfire. Guests turned their heads between me at the altar and Emma lurking in the back. It was impossible to ignore. My maid of honor shifted uncomfortably, and even the priest hesitated for a beat before continuing. Emma finally stepped forward. She tried to smile, as if this were some harmless joke, but her voice trembled when she said, "Wait. I just wanted to help." The dress, it looked too perfect to stay hidden. The crowd stiffened. You could feel the collective unease, the realization that something deeply wrong had unfolded. I didn't flinch. I turned slowly, my champagne gown shimmering like armor. Help. My voice carried through the church, calm but cutting. You stole a dress that didn't belong to you. A dress that was my mother's. And you wore it like it was yours to claim. Emma's face drained of color. She stammered, I thought it would be fun. I was just trying to share the moment. Liam's expression hardened. He stepped forward, his hand firm around mine, his eyes locked on her. Emma, he said coldly, this isn't your moment. It never was. The guests erupted in murmurs again, but I stood taller. Instead of shame, I felt power humming through me. Emma had tried to embarrass me, to reduce me to nothing on the most important day of my life. Instead, she had exposed herself. I turned back to the priest and spoke with clarity. Shall we continue? The crowd applauded softly, almost like they were rooting for me, for us. But as the vows began, I noticed Emma still standing there, her fists clenched. And in her eyes, I saw it, she wasn't done yet. Emma didn't leave. She lingered at the back of the church, her posture stiff, her eyes darting from me to Liam, like she was waiting for some miracle to change the scene in her favor. The priest continued, though his voice was shaky, sensing the tension. Liam squeezed my hand with every vow he spoke, his words steady, full of certainty. I repeated mine just as firmly, refusing to let Emma's presence steal even a second of meaning from them. But when the priest finally said, if anyone has any objection, speak now, or forever hold your peace, my stomach clenched. Emma moved. She stepped forward, the hem of my mother's gown brushing the stone floor. A few guests gasped. My aunt actually whispered, oh no, under her breath. I have something to say, Emma declared, her voice trembling but loud enough to echo. All eyes turned to her. My pulse hammered in my ears, but instead of fear, a strange calm washed over me. I knew she would try something. Liam's grip on my hand tightened like a promise. Emma looked at him, then at me. Her face twisted into a strange mixture of desperation and pride. You deserve to know, she said, staring at Liam. I've loved you for years. I was there for every fight you two had, every time she doubted you. I should be the one standing here with you, not her. The silence was so heavy, it felt like the church itself was holding its breath. But then Liam laughed. A short, sharp laugh that broke the tension, like glass shattering. You, he said, shaking his head. Emma, you were never in this story. Not once. The room erupted in shocked whispers. Emma's face flushed deep red, and for the first time, I saw her mask truly crack. She had played her final card, and it had failed. Emma's confession hung in the air like smoke, choking everyone in silence. Her face burned red, but her chin lifted in stubborn defiance, as if daring someone to disagree with her twisted version of reality. But Liam didn't waver. He turned to me, his voice clear and steady. I love you. Only you. And nothing she says changes that. Something inside me bloomed at those words, not just relief, but vindication. He hadn't been tempted by her schemes, not even for a moment. Emma's lips trembled. She looked around the church, maybe hoping for sympathy, but the faces staring back weren't admiring. They were horrified. Guests shifted uncomfortably, shaking their heads, whispering behind their hands. She wasn't the dazzling center of attention anymore. She was the villain who had ripped apart a sacred day. I think it's best you leave, the priest finally said, his tone firm. Emma's mouth opened like she wanted to argue, but then she caught sight of me. I wasn't crying, I wasn't breaking. I was standing taller than ever, my champagne gown glowing in the candlelight, my hand wrapped tightly in Liam's. And in that moment, Emma realized she hadn't stolen my day. She had destroyed her own place in my life forever. She dropped her gaze, turned sharply, and stormed out of the church. The heavy doors slammed behind her, echoing like a final verdict. A hush lingered for a moment. Then slowly the music swelled again. The priest smiled at me softly. Shall we continue? I nodded, my heart pounding with triumph. This was no longer just a wedding. It was a reclamation. And nothing, not Emma, not betrayal, not even the stolen dress, could stop me from finishing it. The moment Emma stormed out, it felt like the weight of a storm finally lifted. A collective sigh rippled through the church, as if everyone had been holding their breath. My bridesmaids exchanged relieved glances, and even some of Liam's relatives smiled, nodding in approval. The ceremony resumed, but this time, Every word carried more meaning. The vows weren't just promises of love, they were declarations of resilience. Every "I do" was a victory, not only for us as a couple but for me as a woman who had refused to be broken. When Liam slid the ring onto my finger, I felt my entire body steady. His hands trembled just slightly, but his eyes never left mine. I placed his ring with the same deliberate care, sealing a bond that Emma could never touch. "By the power vested in me," the priest announced, his voice warmer now, "I pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." The applause that erupted wasn't just polite clapping, it was thunderous, a roar of support. Guests rose to their feet, some even whistling and cheering. As Liam kissed me, I felt the room explode in joy, and for the first time all day, I let myself cry. Not from pain, from triumph. Walking back down the aisle, hand in hand with my husband, I saw faces glowing with pride, admiration, and love. No one was talking about Emma anymore. They were talking about us. About the bride who turned betrayal into brilliance. But as we stepped outside into the golden evening light, I caught sight of something across the street, a flash of white lace disappearing into a car. Emma wasn't gone for good, and I knew in my heart this wouldn't be the last time she tried to claw her way back into my life. The reception was everything I had dreamed it would be: laughter, clinking glasses, the swirl of music and dancing. For a while, it felt as if Emma had never existed. Guests toasted to our happiness. Children twirled on the dance floor, and Liam couldn't stop staring at me like I was the only person in the world. But every so often, my mind drifted back to that glimpse outside the church, the flash of my mother's dress disappearing into a car. I knew Emma well enough to understand she wasn't the type to retreat quietly. She thrived on drama, on chaos. Still, as I looked around at the people who loved me, I realized something important. Emma might try again someday. She might pop back into my life with another stunt, another desperate grab for attention. But the difference now was that I would never be caught off guard again. She had revealed herself. Everyone had seen the truth, her envy, her selfishness, her betrayal. And the harder she tried to take from me, the clearer it became to others that she was only destroying herself. Later that night, as Liam and I swayed together under the soft glow of string lights, he leaned down and whispered, "She thought she could ruin this for you. But look at you. You're stronger than ever." I rested my head against his chest, smiling. "She stole my dress," I murmured, "but she gave me something better, proof of who my real family and friends are." He kissed my forehead. "And proof that you look stunning in anything." The crowd laughed when I told them the story in pieces, not as a tragedy, but as a triumph. And every time someone glanced at my champagne gown shimmering under the lights, they nodded knowingly. Emma had walked in wearing a stolen dress. But I walked out wearing a legacy, one she could never touch. And in the end, it wasn't her betrayal people remembered. It was my victory.